What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here with your second stimulus check update and related news report. Today is the day that House Speaker and leader of the Democrats, Nancy Pelosi, has set for the 48-hour deadline, ends at the end of today, for what she says is the deadline to get a deal done before the election. I'm going to give you my thoughts on that, and I'm going to also give you the newest information of what President Donald Trump is saying and what Mitch McConnell is saying in this video. But first, if you can, give this video a like down below. It really helps out our channel. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe down below so you don't miss out on new videos coming out. Okay, first up, both Nancy Pelosi and White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows have now been saying within the last few hours that it's no longer the top line number that really matters at this point. This is good news because they're saying now it's just the minor details that they're working out in the negotiations between the Democrats and the Republicans, that the $2.2 trillion or the White House's 1.8 that has now gone to $1.9 trillion for the next stimulus package is no longer a big concern, that they're close enough now that they can make it happen, that they're now just working on the final details and the wording and the language. This is coming from both Nancy Pelosi, who has been stuck on that $2.2 trillion for like ever, and basically is saying that's got to be $2.2 trillion or nothing. She's now saying that that is no longer a concern, and White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows has said the same thing. So it looks like they're close enough on the amount of the stimulus package to actually make an agreement. President Donald Trump just gave an interview a few hours ago regarding the stimulus package and the stimulus check. Let me show you what he has to say.
Saying that he might be willing to go above that $2.2 trillion number that House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has been pushing.
But I want to do it even bigger than the Democrats, because this is money going to people that did not deserve what happened to them coming out of China. Now, to just put it very simply, we want to do it, but Nancy Pelosi doesn't want to do it. We're talking about money going to the American people that got hurt, and they shouldn't have been hurt. This was caused by China. They shouldn't have been hurt, and we shouldn't be punishing them, and we're punishing them because of Nancy Pelosi.
So watch closely throughout the day to see if these two sides, House Democrats and the White House's top negotiators, are able to get any closer to a deal that could impact so many Americans. As for the president, well, he's back on the campaign trail today, heading to Pennsylvania for another one of those big rallies. Guys?
Now, the problem with President Donald Trump going over $2.2 trillion is, of course, the Senate Republicans that don't want to touch anything near $2+ trillion. They only need 13 votes or 25% of the Senate Republicans to vote yes on a bill to pass it in the Senate. And there now is talk from Mark Meadows, White House Chief of Staff, that if they try to do that in the future, I personally think they should pass this bill first. Then they can work on what they're now calling infrastructure, which Republicans are actually for. They want to invest money in infrastructure because they think it provides multiple returns going forward. For example, you put $1 trillion into infrastructure and you get $2 or $3 or $4 trillion back out of it over the long run. They think it's basically an investment in America. So the Republicans, or the Senate Republicans, would be willing to spend more money if it's for, quote, infrastructure. But I don't think they should add that in the bill at this point, because they're so close to an agreement that now having to negotiate on infrastructure would just muddy the waters at this point. Although it might make Nancy Pelosi happy because that higher top line number goes up, the amount they want to spend goes up. But I think at this point it would just complicate things. Nancy Pelosi and Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin will be speaking again today for at least an hour of their allotted time. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin has flown to the Middle East to take care of international affairs, even though right now we need the stimulus package for America and Americans. But he thinks he can do it on the phone, which I think is fair because, I mean, we do have telephones in this day and age. However, America and Americans should be the number one priority, and getting the stimulus package done should be the number one goal. While Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, has set a deadline for today to get an agreement done on the larger stimulus package, the Senate and the Senate Republicans plan to vote on not one, but two stimulus packages in the Senate that are smaller stimulus packages. They're set to vote on a stimulus package today that will replenish the Paycheck Protection Program for small businesses and small business employees to keep their jobs. This helps small businesses basically pay the payroll of it's the Paycheck Protection Program, helps them pay the payroll of their employees to prevent them from losing their jobs and help keep the small business from going out of business. They're planning on voting on that today. And tomorrow, they're planning on voting on a skinny bill that they call a smaller stimulus package that does include a $300 per week unemployment extension, among other things. That's the main key point. The problem is that Democrats don't want to go for skinny bills at this point. However, it's interesting to see that Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is actually for an unemployment extension, unemployment boost money, because if you would have asked a month or two ago, Mitch McConnell was like against more unemployment boost money. It was the number one enemy of him. Their thoughts were basically that everybody should just go back to work, and that's that. Go back to work and there's no more unemployment money and you're on your own. Well, it's interesting to see that Mitch McConnell is now introducing a bill that has an extra unemployment extension money of $300 per week all the way to the end of this year, 2020, because that was his number one thing he hated. He hated it the most. And now he's the one introducing bills with an unemployment extension. And that just goes to show you how things can change in Hollywood. I should say Washington, but maybe this is actually the Hollywood stage that we've all been tuning into, because it does seem like it has those type of twists and turns to a dramatic movie as we near the 48-hour deadline that Nancy Pelosi is imposing. Now, I want to give you my thoughts on Nancy Pelosi's 48-hour deadline. A lot of you guys have been asking me, what do I think about the 48-hour deadline? Well, I don't think it's actually a real deadline, okay? I think it's nice to push the White House to get this language back that she wants over the virus provisions, but I don't think much really changes if they don't meet the deadline tonight. I personally think that Nancy Pelosi wants to get a deal done right before the election. And by right before the election, I mean like a day or two before the election. That's my personal thoughts on what I think she wants to happen. Now, of course, timing never works out to be that perfect, but I think that's what Nancy Pelosi wants to do. I don't think this 48-hour deadline really means much at all. We've also seen both Nancy Pelosi and President Donald Trump say that they would be willing to pass a deal directly after the election. They both said actually the day after the election. I don't know if it would be actually the day after, but within a few days after the election, that both of them would be willing to sign off on a deal after the election if they haven't come to an agreement before then. So I think this 48-hour deadline is nice because people need help now, and we'll have to see if they can come to an agreement by tonight. I will keep you updated with our 8 p.m. video tonight. I will have more information on how close or if they've actually made an agreement. Today is the day of what she said the 48-hour deadline happens at tonight. So today is the last day of this 48-hour deadline that she has. I don't think it's the end of the world, and we've actually had some people calling it a faux deadline, that it's basically just a made-up deadline by Nancy Pelosi, which it is. I mean, she just basically made up this deadline, but it is nice to see them pushing harder to get things done. Like, hey, get me this wording, this language back within 48 hours if you want to get this done before the election, because we're only 2 weeks away from the election at this point. So they do need to be pushing harder to get this stuff done. I mean, they have had time to do this, but now's the time to iron out the final details and either get a deal done right before the election or right after the election. Multiple House Democrats from Nancy Pelosi's own party and her own House of Representatives are saying that the window is closing on getting a stimulus deal done because they think that getting a deal done before the election will be much easier than getting it done after the election. House Majority Whip Jim Clyburn said on Tuesday that the quote window is closing and that quote I think there's an outside chance that something will get done before the elections, but that the window is closing. Nancy Pelosi's chief of staff Drew Hamill tweeted Monday that they continue to narrow their differences and the speaker has tasked the committee chairs to reconcile their differences with the GOP counterparts on key areas right now before this 48-hour deadline is over. Jim Clyburn, who is the number 3 ranking Democrat in the House, accused Republicans of not being willing to compromise with the Democrats and argued that Nancy Pelosi is, quote, is trying to stand up for people who are being left out of this deal, saying, we are going to do what's fair. That's what we want to see done. And we are not just going to take anything simply because it'll be something. Mark Meadows, White House chief of staff, says that if the large stimulus package doesn't end up passing before the election, that the smaller stimulus packages that are going to be voted on by Mitch McConnell and the Senate could be a potential backup plan to get some stimulus out, money for Paycheck Protection Program, money for unemployed workers, and the other things in those bills before the election, that they could pass those, although that seems unlikely because the Democrats are against the skinny bills, with their hopes of the larger stimulus package still being optimistic. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Make sure to subscribe and click the bell icon if you want to get notified. I will be having another update for you guys at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight with an update on the 48-hour deadline and to see if we have made a deal by tonight. So make sure you don't miss out on that video, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can click on this top video to watch my newest stimulus check video next. And this video teaches you how to start a business selling products on Amazon FBA. I have students that have replaced their entire 9-to-5 income by selling products on Amazon, and I teach them how to do that. Click on one of those videos to watch them next. Thanks, and I will see you in the next video.